I think we're live. Let me check. Always takes a few seconds. Yes, we are. So yeah, this is going to be really cool. Please, first of all, I think everyone make sure to tell us if the audio is fine, if everything works. It's always the most important thing to start with. Thanks also for tuning in. And also thanks, Sunny, for being here. I mean, this was a very spontaneous thing that you just told me 2 days ago or yesterday. Like, hey, man, I think there's some uncertainties around my stance on the Cosmos Hub and the kind of like relationship between Osmosis and Cosmos. So, or the Cosmos Hub, of course. Cosmos is the overarching umbrella under which everything is. But yeah, first things first, Sunny, how's everything going? How are you? Where are you these days? What did you do since Lisbon?
Yeah, I'm back at my parents' place right now, actually, for, I was here for Thanksgiving and stuff. But yeah, Lisbon was such a great time. I don't know if, thank you so much for like helping organize that. That was like, it was much needed, right? Like, I think the Cosmos community like got a lot out of it. And so, but yeah, since Lisbon, I mean, so I was like traveling for like 2 months nonstop, like leading into Lisbon. So I went to India first, and I was in Berlin for a couple of weeks, and then I was in Lisbon for like 3 weeks. And so I just needed a little bit of time home. So yeah, no, coming back to my parents' place, and just like, I was talking to Anna from Citizen Cosmos, and you probably feel this as well, being like, a YouTuber podcaster. Home is like where the podcast setup is, right? Like when you're traveling and you have to go like plug in the wire. It's like, no. Here at home is where I can like have my microphone and just like pull it down and be like ready to go in like a few seconds. So yeah, it's nice to be home and just like got getting a lot of work done since then, because like, definitely a lot of new like strategic directions were figured out in Lisbon by talking to people. Had a lot of really great conversations with like Ethan Fry, people from like, Stargaze, and there's a lot of cool ideas. And now, so it's like last couple of weeks since then has been just like planning and figuring out how to start executing on these different things.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, it was really cool, and I think there's, especially in the last few days on Twitter, some like people that just come on Twitter. There's obviously a lot of trolls. You should never take all of them serious, but they say like, oh, there's a dev war now between Cosmos developers, and but then in Lisbon we had all such a cool time, and I know you talked to Pang, and then Alessio was there, and like from all these ecosystems, and obviously you have sometimes heated discussions and different opinions. This is completely normal. This is what we all have. But yeah, it was great to see from our perspective. Basil is actually here next to me, also core organizer of the conference. So for us to like just get you guys in one room, and then lock the doors, and then you guys talk, and you guys figure things out. That was our core goal. And one of the things that then wrapped up the whole month, maybe you can start there, is, and by the way, I think there's right now one guy in the comments who's saying the audio is bad, but please, everyone else is saying the audio is fine. So let us know if it's fine. Just say something like yup or yes. There's a lot of like people from Strange Clan. So just say something like, oh, audio is good, so we know. But so one of the things, how this whole month in Lisbon actually with crypto events ended, at least for cosmonauts, was the HackAtom, right? And personally, I'm also excited to see that you guys are also involved. I've also seen you speaking there, at least virtually. And also that there's some bonus points if you incorporate Ion into a product that potentially is being built. So what can you share about what's happening right now at the HackAtom? What's the current stage? And also, are you building anything?
So the Osmosis community pool decided basically last minute to sponsor the hackathon. So like, I think Adriana from Kalpatech made a proposal on the Monday before the hackathon started, and the community pool decided to sponsor it. So we put up a 50K sponsorship prize in Osmo from the community pool. And yeah, so there's I feel like a lot of the projects were like very specific on like what the hackathon should like challenges should be like, and I think we helped propose like one that, something that's more broad in general, where, I think part of the fun of hackathons is giving people a lot of like freedom and creativity to come up with cool ideas rather than like assigning them what to do. And so that's why our challenge was basically just do something cool with Osmosis. Bonus points if you use Ion. So yeah, you don't have to use Ion. That was just, wanted to tack it on. I don't know if there's a cool use case for Ions that like comes out of this, that would be pretty cool. I have some ideas for Ions that I've been like kicking up in my head as well recently. One of the outcomes from Lisbon. But so yeah, so the hackathon, and then we've been working with other teams as well. So like you'll notice the Agoric prize also sort of is about how do you take Osmosis liquidity shares and move them onto Agoric to create like a liquidity mining system there, because on Osmosis we do have like a liquidity mining system where like for people to add external incentives, but it's still our model was designed for how we want Osmo incentives to work with this like 1 day, 7 day, 14 day system. And this like external incentives is sort of this like tacked on thing where it's like, okay, people who want to provide external incentives, they can, but it was designed for our system, for the Osmo reward. So if you want more customizable liquidity mining systems, you probably want to actually build a smart contract for that. And so people can actually take their LP shares onto Agoric and then write a smart contract to like do more fancy or complicated liquidity mining systems. So it's cool that Osmosis gets to show up not just in like one spot in the hackathon, but in like multiple spots. And like it also just shows that like, hey, a lot of the projects Osmos are very interested building peripheral for and staying to making use of the LBL form that Osmosis is building.
Awesome. Yeah, I think in the last second your audio was a little bit lagging. But yeah, really cool. A lot of things, and I think from the last Hackathon 5, the idea of Osmosis was actually born, right? And then from there, it kind of like became what Osmosis is today. So really excited to see. I think everyone that is watching right now, please make sure to like keep track of those things. I mean, that's how you really get into solid projects very early on. So keep track of what's going on at the Hackathon. But that's not going to be the main topic of today. The main topic is the views that you have on the Cosmos Hub. You obviously have a history also. You previously worked at Tendermint, right, which is one of the main companies, I would say, that kind of like works on maintaining and improving and pushing forward the Cosmos Hub, and also projects that are attached to it. And then you kind of like we talked about this in our other interview more in depth, but then you left Tendermint and then you joined Osmosis as a co-founder very early on. And since then, there has been sometimes like soft, I would not say disputes, but like, conversations on Twitter where people say like, oh my God, Sunny is now trying to like, compete with the Cosmos Hub. He doesn't like the Cosmos Hub anymore. He doesn't like Atom anymore. He hates Cosmos. So there's a lot of like people that became really vocal. The way I see it, and then maybe you can expand on your views. The way I see it is that you believe that the Cosmos Hub is supposed to be this neutral chain that doesn't kind of like where everything else doesn't depend on, right? So it's a kind of like port city. I think there's this great article which explains that concept, where you can build feature and offer services basically for the IBC world, for example, IBC routing, and also, for example, interchain security, right? The Cosmos version of shared security. So I think you believe that those are the two main things that in the long term accrue the most value for the Atom as a coin, but also for the Cosmos Hub as its sovereign chain. Is that how you view it? And then I guess one of the things that kicked off the whole debate that you said like, hey, I think we drifted apart from this idea, from this goal, is when the Gravity Dix was implemented on the Cosmos Hub, which you said this basically turns the Cosmos Hub chain into a DeFi protocol, right? So is that how you view it? Maybe you can share some more thoughts and more depth into it, and then make your point here.
Yeah, I think that sounds right. Where, I think that the Cosmos Hub really was supposed to be this like sort of layer one blockchain, like no, yeah, it's supposed to be this like center of the Cosmos ecosystem, and to do that, you need to have this like credible neutrality, which means that like you know you don't want to be competing with the things that are building on top of it. You take one thing and really focus in on that one thing and let everything else you know uh build peripheral stuff on top of you, right? So like if you look at something like Ethereum, right? Ethereum, it's like, okay, we're gonna be the compute layer, and we're gonna like, and ETH is gonna be this like moneyness asset on Ethereum. Like the Ethereum Foundation isn't out there building a DEX that's like native to the Ethereum blockchain, right? Because if they did that, then it's unlikely that people would have built things on top of it, right? Like Uniswap would not have built on top of Ethereum if all the energy was spent on like promoting their own like native DEX and giving like special treatment to that native DEX. And I think the same goes for the Cosmos Hub, where the Cosmos Hub, what it should do is figure out what's the use case it's going to focus on, and it should be something that like is correlated with the growth of the ecosystem. The more you want something where it's on Ethereum, what's the model is that the more people that are building and using Ethereum, more ETH is being used for gas. Now, is the gas model the best value accrual model? Maybe, but and also it has like other aspects of it as well, with like everything is priced in ETH, right? Like I think it's very valuable that like you go on OpenSea right now, all the NFTs are priced in ETH, and it's like building it being this like base money for the system is important. And so the Cosmos Hub was supposed to do something very similar. So, similar to, let's say, Polkadot, where, you have the Polkadot relay chain that's being this like service provider to the other things on top of it, and what they're doing is providing this shared security functionality. And I think that that's sort of what the Cosmos Hub, in my view, was always designed to do. I think like different people have different views of what the Cosmos Hub should be, even like within the Tendermint team. Like early on, when we were building this stuff, some people thought like, hey, IBC router is the use case. Some people thought that no, hey, shared security is the use case. Some people thought, I'm sure there were people who thought that a DEX was the right use case. And so yeah, okay. So I think that really the Cosmos Hub should be focused in on that like shared security use case. So okay, I basically think there's three main use cases the hub really should have been focused on, and I wrote if you go back back in February or something, we wrote this like long post called like Osmosis, a hub AMM, but basically what's that meant? It was really less about Osmosis. It was really more about the Cosmos Hub. And what we were pitching was this idea that like, hey, a DEX just does not make sense on the hub, because when we started building Osmosis back in like, just January, December, we thought about putting it on the hub. We're like, hey, let's build this thing. We'll make a governance proposal to put it on the hub. But what we did was we came to the conclusion after working it out, we're like, hey, I actually just don't think a DEX on the hub is going to be able to compete with a sovereign DEX. And we're seeing that play out right now, right? Like I at the moment, Gravity DEX is just not able to compete. And there's like a host of reasons. One is with the incentives, but also it just comes with like speed of iteration and all these reasons why it won't work. And so that's why we said, okay, hey, let's instead, build this as a separate chain. But what is the hub supposed to be focused on? And in that post, we basically talk about three main things, which is one, shared security, two is bridges to other ecosystems, and three is being the base money of the network. And I think by giving up that credible neutrality of the hub is. So a lot of people are saying, hey, it could do all those things, but why can't we also have a DEX on it, right? And the problem with that is by putting that DEX on it and giving up that credible neutrality, you give up your opportunity to do some of these other things as well. So, in the gravity, in the bridges situation, right? What effectively happened was, once Gravity Dex was on the hub, Osmosis, we took a stance that like, hey, we're just not going to use a bridge that's controlled by a competing Dex, right? And there's a variety of reasons, right? Where it's like, if you have a bridge on the Cosmos hub, it's going to be used to drive liquidity into the Gravity Dex. I mean, you just look at the naming, right? They like try to like make the naming very similar. Like who, okay, oh yes, I go on the Gravity Bridge site. Okay, where do I put this stuff? Oh, Gravity Dex, right? It's like, no, we don't. That feels like an unfair advantage to Gravity Dex over Osmosis, where like they would use the bridge to funnel users into their own native DeFi system. And it's like the same reason we wouldn't use Peggy on Sif chain, right? It just doesn't make sense. For us, Osmosis, and so we were thinking like, oh, okay, does this mean we have to go build our own bridge for Osmosis? But we didn't want to do this either, because we want to, we're already working on a lot of things right now, and we didn't want to add another thing to our plate. And then this is when the Althea team reached out to us and said that like, hey, they've been reading the stuff I've been talking about, credible neutrality and stuff, and they kind of reached out to us and they're like, hey, we totally agree with you on all this stuff, and like, I think you're right. I think if we had the Gravity Bridge as a separate chain, would you guys be a user of it? And I'm like, yeah, sure, because that's what we've been looking for, right? We want a credibly neutral bridge that will serve all the dexes fairly and equally, right? And so that bridge should have been on the Cosmos hub, but now it's on a separate chain. But is there still a chance for the Cosmos hub to recover the bridges? I don't know. We'll see. Once the cat's out of the bag and the bridge is now on a separate chain, we'll see. Like, there's still a lot more bridges to be built, and maybe if the Gravity Dex gets off the hub, and like, maybe there's a world where all these other bridges can still go onto the hub, and even the Gravity Bridge maybe one day migrates back onto the hub. But at the moment, I think the focus should be like, making sure that these other two things are executed on as swiftly as possible. Both the shared security as well as the like moneyness of atoms. And there's like, I think competition on both of these, and like from strong competition, especially on the moneyness, right? Especially with Terra activating IBC, like there's a strong competition for being the base money of the Cosmos ecosystem. And I really think the Cosmos Hub and Atom holder sets should be like trying their best to preserve that.
Yeah, so talk a little bit more about that base money idea. Obviously, you already gave some examples. For example, transactions should be paid or settled using, or for example, in that case, using Atom. On NFT marketplaces, you price things in Atom. What do you mostly refer to that when you say that Atom should be the base money of the Interchain? Do you mean that, for example, IBC traffic should be routed through the hub mostly, and also paid an extra fee for that service? Is this one of the use cases, or maybe you can give some examples here?
Yeah. So, okay. Yes, I think NFTs being priced in atoms is actually very important. I think, Agoric is launching their stablecoin pretty soon, and that is like going to be primarily atom backed, which I think is great, because you deposit, it's like kind of like a maker like system, and but you deposit atoms as collateral and you get back this like run stable coin. So I think that's a good thing. And Osmosis, right? Like atoms being like, currently there's more liquidity in the Osmo pools than the atom pools. And, there's a lot of, there's been a lot of pressure within the this has been this big debate within the Osmosis community of whether Osmosis should be like giving so much incentives to these atom based pools versus moving more of the incentives only into the Osmo pools and UST pools. And, I feel like the Cosmos Hub could be doing more to like make sure that the Osmosis community is incentive aligned to make atoms that base pair, rather than something like UST and Osmo. Because like, I'll say that, we've been working pretty closely with like the Terra team and they are very like, they have it as a mission of theirs to like make sure UST becomes the base money of the entire Cosmos ecosystem. And they've been like working with us on like designing incentive programs and with like giving Luna to working with different projects within the ecosystem to like have them pair their assets against UST. And it's like, that sort of business development, but like, I don't know. I like to think of these as DAO to DAO business development. It's rather than B2B, it's like D to D. But like, doing this kind of work to like make sure that everyone in the ecosystem is like gung ho about atoms and wants to like price things in atoms, and also making sure that there's like reasons to do this, where like part of the reason is like people things are priced in ETH is it's one of the easiest things for people to get their hands on and like use. And currently in the Cosmos ecosystem, atoms are that, but I think that we need to keep that system going, like make sure that there's more custody solutions for atoms, make sure that atoms are more integrated into on-ramp systems, and like just making sure that atoms are the easiest thing to use, and thus they become anyone who's building a product in Cosmos, if they want to provide the best, what you need to do is make it that anyone who's building a product in the Cosmos ecosystem, in order for them to provide the best UX to their users, they should want to use atoms, right? Like that. I think that once you can solve that, right now it seems very much that the atom community is trying to pressure projects into like using atoms, and like shaming them if like, oh, you're not why aren't you using atoms for this? But it's like, no, you should make it so it's like a no-brainer for projects to want to use atoms.
I see. Yeah. I can definitely see how UST could become the predominant stablecoin of the Cosmos ecosystem, similar to what USDT and now maybe more and more USDC is for the broader crypto and especially Ethereum ecosystem. But I think still Atom is in a very good spot here to like remain that. You see, for example, all these airdrops. I mean, obviously now a lot of new projects airdrop their coins to Osmo LPs and holders and stakers. But I think still the majority of the airdrops gets to Atom holders, right? That's also how Osmosis launched in the first place. How I became a Osmo holder and on day one through this airdrop, which was really nice. So yeah, this is interesting. Now let's talk a little bit about the shared security thing. I think last time we talked, we are still like the term interchain security per se was pretty new. I think you were one of the ones who kind of like phrased this term. So what can you say? The informal team led by Ethan, the co-founder of Cosmos, they released an article 2 days ago, I think, basically saying, oh yeah, we're going hard now on interchain security. It's coming. Here's some demos, how it's going to be looking like. Validators can basically choose and individually negotiate with projects to kind of like secure their chain as well. So what are your thoughts on the current, maybe first of all, on the architecture, how interchain security is designed? And then the second question, how do you view Atom's role in that whole thing? And do you think it's going to accrue enough value to make Atom as the heart of the interchain?
Yeah, I love the work that the informal and ICF teams have been doing on this, right? Like, I think so. The architecture wise, I think this is great because I was the one who came up with a lot of this architecture back when I was still at Tendermint, and obviously we've been iterating on it with a lot of people, and yeah, so I think that this shared security design is like. I like this. I personally like this way better than like what's in Polkadot and things like that, right? I think this is the more bottom up mechanism of shared security that makes sense. And so now now it's just a matter of like executing on it, and it's getting this to a point where it's live and in production, and like yeah, I think right now it's mostly just an execution thing. Like, I guess one thing I'm very happy is I think that I think the informal team is like probably the right team to execute on this. And so yeah, I think that once the Cosmos Hub delivers on this like shared security stuff, I think that will be a big important piece to like making sure the Cosmos Hub is vital to like the Cosmos ecosystem, or at least making it, I think it has positive effects to both Cosmos and the hub, right? For Cosmos, one of the biggest issues right now is like a lot of people I talk to, there's like this concerns of like, hey, we don't want to like we can't build on Cosmos because it's too much work to find our own validator set and like find our own security system, and it's like this kind of acts as a showstopper for a lot of people. And the problem is, I think a lot of people like look inside the Cosmos ecosystem today and say like, hey, no one seems to want shared security. Terra doesn't want shared security. Crypto.com doesn't want shared security. Like, who wants shared security? But I think the problem is that like that's like survivorship bias, right? The people building in Cosmos today are the people who don't need shared security, because the people who wanted shared security aren't building in Cosmos because there's no shared security, right?
Yeah.
It's like you have to look outside the Cosmos ecosystem and see, okay, X and Y project that chose to build on Polkadot, why are they building there instead of Cosmos? Right? That's the question that needs to be asked. Or why is this project building on Solana? Or what made them consider something else instead of Cosmos? And I will say, probably at least a third of the time, it is a lack of shared security.
Probably, yeah. And I think it's also a little bit kind of like narratives, right? Like, for example, in Polkadot and also Cardano's case, you have two star founders, right? The Ethereum co-founders that are leading both projects. And on Solana's case, you also have SBF. Like you have like huge personalities behind and star people that are involved. I think in Cosmos, like everyone is kind of like trying to say, we're all kind of like, the same. We have all equal rights and equal, stake in this project. And I think especially Ethan and Jay, they kind of like routed a little bit back and said, we're in the background. This is for everyone to use. And I think this is also one thing that maybe, the VCs and the retailers, they're like, this doesn't really sound too interesting to me. I'd rather go, to watch Charles Hoskinson's 5-hour live streams every other day. So yeah, I think this is one thing. I think it's very like naive and very like basic, but I think this is really one thing. And then the other thing is potentially, like you said, some of the features like what Polkadot had with the parachain auctions. And it's not just they have it because they only have it since 2 weeks, but they have been marketing this for 1 year, 1.5 years, right? Like, oh, parachains are coming. And they have built up this momentum for over a year. So that's...
And the problem here is like, it's not like Cosmos didn't try to market things, right? The problem is we were marketing the wrong thing, right? Like, I feel like all of 2021 was spent like hyping people up about this Gravity Dex thing and be like, guys, this is going to be the like value driver to atoms. And instead, when it launched, it was just a complete flop, right? Like, just as was predicted. And it's like, and that's what I was trying to tell people, like, hey, like, and that's what I was kind of worried about, like, for the Cosmos Hub was like, okay, there's currently this like, part of, also like part of the growth of, this narrative thing about Cosmos right now. A lot of people are like, when you ask them about like, oh, they don't think Cosmos is this like big ecosystem, because they're like, wow, this like native token has been underperforming. Like this Atom thing is like definitely underperforming, like, ABBA and DOTS and Sol and all this other stuff, right? But what people have to realize is that's what, I tweeted this the other day, where it's like 5 out of the top 20, top 30 crypto projects are like built on the Cosmos SDK, right? If you go through a list of the top 200 market cap assets, like Cosmos has the most after Ethereum, obviously, okay, obviously most of them are on Ethereum, but like, Cosmos has more projects in the top 200 than Solana, Avalanche, BSC, like any of these ecosystems. There's like, I think like, I don't know, what was it? Maybe 10 to 15 of the projects in the top 200 are built on Cosmos. And like, so in a way, Cosmos is like, in a lot of ways, it sort of was a rejection of the FAT protocol thesis, where it's like, hey, instead of all the value accruing to these native tokens, it gives a way for like people who are building these applications to build tokens, and these tokens, the application layer tokens, are the ones that accrue the value. And I think one of the issues is like, so there's so much attention or so much negative view of the Cosmos ecosystem is is caused because of atoms underperforming, and I think that comes primarily from the Cosmos hubs like misexecution over the past year, right? And I think that a lot of that stems from focusing in on the wrong things.
Okay. So how do you view then the path forward, right? Obviously, we talked about interchain security, and where do you see currently the kind of like where the Cosmos Hub as a chain stands in competition to the Polkadots, the Cardanos, the Solanas, right? Do you think that eventually it will catch up, eventually we'll get to the right track and have all these features, and it's all in the works? I mean, it's already like public interchain security is coming, all these things that we just talked. Do you think that now, I think this has also been your mission, right? So getting back to what we talked about earlier, that you have been the entire year 2021, and people perceived it as, oh my god, Sunny is really salty or whatever and doesn't like the atom anymore. But has that been your goal to like get to this point where we're even doing the stream now, and you basically state your position here that now we're on the right track? Do you feel we are at this point, or do you think there's still a lot of things that need to be like fundamentally changed, or you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think we're getting to the right point. So I think one of the big, discussions that came out of Lisbon as well was that, like, we sat down with a lot of the people from Tendermint, and like, I think they finally have admitted that, like, okay, maybe gravity DEX on the hub was the wrong approach. And so I think, they are pretty on board with the idea of trying to move gravity DEX off of the hub onto its own chain. I think that is like one of the first steps in order to, like, fix the Cosmos hubs, like, positioning. And then the second part is, like, also get, like you said, okay, yeah, we know that interchain security is coming, but I feel that's only within Cosmos. I can go to other people right now in, I spent a lot of time. I was in Lisbon for 3 weeks because I was there all the way from the Ethereum conference all the way till the end of the Solana conference. And so it's like, if you go to talk to people outside the Cosmos ecosystem, none of them know about interchain security yet, right? And because I think part of the problem right now is that Tendermint, the company, is the one that controls the Cosmos narrative outside of just they control the social media accounts. But they're sort of still seen as the external facing representatives of the community. And so I think because Tendermint for the last year has been so focused on pushing gravity DEX, there was not, I don't think people outside of our internal, like, everyone in Cosmos knows about this interchain security thing. I don't think people outside of it do. What people outside know of it is gravity DEX. Like, up to, I go at the Ethereum conference, at the Solana conference, the one thing that people know the Cosmos Hub is doing right now is gravity DEX. And they're like, hey, didn't that thing kind of flop? And so I think that's like what needs to be fixed, where it's like, hey, we got to, it's hard to go like fix a narrative, right? But people have done it before, right? Like multiple ecosystems have fixed their narratives, but like I think the Cosmos Hub needs to go out and, like, tell the world, like, hey, here's like what we're working on now, and here's why interchain security is going to be this like big thing. Because I remember, like, I there was that whole like Cosmos Hub 2.0 white paper that came out earlier this year, and I think that kind of got turned into the Port City paper article and stuff. But like, I remember I said, when I was talking to I was like, hey, let's make this like big Cosmos Hub 2.0 white paper that was going to be like, okay, we finished what was in the original white paper. Here's what we're going to be working on for the next 2 years. And I said, like, hey, I think shared security needs to be like, this is like our moment to tell the world with a big bang that, like, hey, we're working on shared security, and this is going to be like amazing, and it's going to like grow the Cosmos ecosystem, and this is going to put the hub at the center of the ecosystem. But instead, the Port City article, as well as like the paper, came out with like, it had a list of all these things, and like, I feel shared security was like this, like, it was like the fourth bullet point on the paper, and it was like, seriously, guys, like, this is not how you tell the world, like, how you make a big bang with this thing. And I think that was the, like, that was
and I think that's maybe one of the big, also for me, like, this moment where I'm like, okay, maybe that's also something where I can help to contribute, and all
Mhm.
the cosmonauts that are watching this, to like, everyone can kind of like become active, and also provide feedback without this, just like finger pointing, like, oh, you don't like Atom anymore. It's like, come on, that's like, it's not really productive. So I think one of the big learnings from this session today, and also from my learnings from Lisbon and meeting all of you guys, like literally Pang was there, you were there, the entire Osmosis team, the entire Kepler team, Josh was there, Billy was there, the whole ICF, like everyone was there. So just to see like, hey, actually, you guys are all friends. I mean, you're all, you know each other for many, many years. Obviously, things get heated sometimes on Twitter. Also on Twitter, I think it's a very informal place. You don't have the face expression to it. You're always a happy guy. I met you so many times now. You're always smiling. You're always laughing. When you sit on a table, everybody like is very respectful to each other. I think the community sometimes has this perception that just because you say something on Twitter and someone else responds, they hate each other, right? But I
Mhm.
think that's not really the case. And yeah, so I wanted to move on to a more specific thing, which is something that a lot of people have, yeah, said that, like, oh, that's the reason why Sunny is salty, which is proposal 52, right? On the Cosmos Hub, to allocate community pool funds to Atom liquidity incentives on Osmosis. This was very early on, when Osmosis launched incentives. And this got rejected. So can you share your thoughts about what this meant to you? What was the purpose of it? And how, why it's being kind of like, still following you to this day.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I mean, it's funny because like a lot of people say like, oh, I'm on this tirade because I'm upset that Prop 52 failed. Um, I'll say like, quite honestly, when we made Prop 52, we almost kind of expected it would fail, but what we were hoping it wouldn't, right? Because it was a test. So, look, the incentives amount here is not that much, right? Like if at the time, whatever this total, the number of atoms being requested, it was like a few $1 million, which is like the osmosis community. Yeah. So, but this like atoms were like, half of what they were today. And they were like, it was a relatively small amount. Osmosis gives away, I think, $3 million in incentives in like 5 days or something, right? And so it's like, okay, it wasn't the amount. It was really meant to be this like signaling. It was for the gesture of it, which was I was putting this. I was telling the world. Okay, look, like I said, one of the main things the hub should be focused on is making atoms be this like high moneyness asset, right?
Mm.
And I was and that's kind of what we started with this entire post with. And my claim about the issue with the gravity decks is that the gravity deck would blind the hub to the bigger picture because it would be overly focused on gravity decks, and that's basically exactly what played out, right? Where I instead of seeing the bigger picture and saying, hey, here's a tiny investment in order to make the osmosis community more aligned with atoms, instead we're going to reject this because it's competitive with the Cosmos hub, with the gravity decks. And like, yes, the timing was a little bit like, odd because of it was the day before gravity decks launched, but that was sort of the point, right? It was a test to see like, hey, dear Cosmos hub, do you care more about gravity decks or do you care more about atoms becoming money? And I think the Cosmos hub chose the wrong way in that proposal. And so it's like, yeah, I'm not upset that we lost that proposal. We knew we kind of predicted we would lose. We were just hoping that like the Cosmos hub community would like see the bigger picture.
Mm.
But instead they prioritize short-term thinking over long-term strategy.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Do you think there's a way to, like, now, what is it, 3 4 months 5 months later, to like now rethink this and maybe set up a different proposal and say, hey, actually there is a way that the Cosmos hub and Osmosis can become best friends?
Yeah, I definitely think so. I think that like that's I mean, one, it really helps that I think, I think some like great Cosmos hub community members are like really taking the Wickex. Still don't know who that is, but he's an active person on Twitter, and so I know he actually sent me over a draft for a V2 of Prop 52 to like try to run it again. And so I haven't gotten a chance to review it yet because Thanksgiving and I was busy with family. But I'll do that sometime this weekend to just like I think that getting that proposal passed it would be really good to at least show the like commitment from the Cosmos Hub that like, hey, we are interested in like making atoms be the base money and like and a lot. I remember a lot of people were one of the things people were like, oh, the Cosmos Sunny wants the Cosmos Hub to give away atoms to like the Osmosis token holder. It's like, guys, you realize we airdropped the entire Osmosis like Genesis to atom holders. Like, this is like peanuts relative to what like Osmosis give, and it's really just meant to see like, hey, can the Cosmos Hub be this like long-term partner and like play tit for tat games?
But I think it's also like, I mean, you personally have been around so many years, and I'm sure you're also still an atom holder, and Sika is one of his top 10 validator on the Cosmos Hub, right? So let's shift over if you want, or is there anything before we move over to the community questions that you want to like clarify? Because in the community questions, there's also many things I think that will kind of like where you can restate and maybe from a different angle. So if you're okay,
I think we have to move on to the community questions.
Awesome, yeah. So first questions, very, very spicy question. And I don't have the names because I just took out the notes out. As a long-term Atom holder and fan of Sunny, I'd like to know if he believes Atom as a token is worth hodling.
Yeah, I mean, I think that at the moment, I think atoms are still very well positioned to be this like base asset for the Cosmos ecosystem. Obviously, I would say it's like everything in crypto has a risk, but like there's a lot of I think that atom holders can't rest on their laurels and think that they've already won, right? And I think that like there's a long way to go to make sure Atom sustains the current position it's in. And I think that if the teams building the Cosmos Hub can do that, I think that would be great. And that's why, like I mentioned, that's why I'm quite happy that like Informal is starting to get way more involved with like, because right now, for the last year, Informal has been like fucking killing it, but they've been focused a lot on like, the IBC and like the relayers and, making sure that that whole stuff works. But, now that they're starting to step in more on like the interchain security and stuff, I think that would be great. I think the ICF team is really like ramping up and like, I think getting these, teams involved, teams with like just more engineering capacity and stuff. I think that would be really helpful for the Cosmos Hub.
Awesome. And by the way, I'm just I'm getting these questions from Twitter. So there's also a lot of questions here in the live chat right now. 120 people are watching live. But I'll first do Twitter as good as possible, and I also try to categorize it between this conflict specific questions and also then Osmosis, because there's also a lot of exciting stuff that comes on Osmosis platform, and the community also wants to know. By the way, is it the Osmogargs or Osmonauts or what is it? How is the Osmos community called?
I don't know if we have a name yet. I think it's just I guess Osmonauts, but I don't know. I don't think we have one yet.
Yeah, I just saw a lot of people texting like Osmogargs, and I'm like, that sounds cool, but like, I don't know.
Okay.
Maybe just
I didn't even know that was a thing.
Yeah.
Osmogard, like GARD.
Like yeah, GARCH. Osmogargs.
Osmogargs.
Like oligarch, like oligarch. Yeah.
I see. Okay, that's funny.
Yeah. But then somebody was like, "Oh no, that labels us as rich Russians."
Yeah.
Anyway, next question: how can Osmo and Atom be used in a way that both can benefit mutually?
Yeah, so I think a lot of it is, I think one of the main things would be getting Osmosis to shift to using interchain security from the Cosmos Hub. So I think that like, So there's actually, if you read the post, there's actually different levels of interchain security, right? It's just like there's like the V1, V2, sorry, V0, V1, V2. V2 is the form that, like, you know, at this point, we're not going to remove Osmo as a staking token, right? That just doesn't make sense. But what we do want is that, like, hey, we want to boost the security of the Cosmos Hub. Sorry, boost the security of Osmosis. And so being able to use like both to still be able to use Osmo for staking, but also allow shared security from Atom. So basically, you'll be staking on Osmosis by either Osmo or Atoms. And so I think that's like one thing. Then in the other direction as well, things like interfluid staking. I think like this is what I gave my talk at Cosmoverse, and getting the Cosmos Hub to use interfluid staking with Osmosis, right? Where like stake atoms that are being used in liquidity pools. There's currently like I think over $150 million of atoms being used in the liquidity pools in Osmosis, allowing those to help secure the Cosmos Hub. I think that is like something that would be really cool in the other direction as well. And then the other one, like I mentioned, just help getting the Cosmos Hub to help like get more things, get atoms being used more as the base pair of Osmosis, because currently most of the projects that are being making liquidity pools, they all make Osmo pools, and then now they're sort of like I've noticed that there's like kind of been half of them make UST pools and half of them make Atom pools, and so I think in how getting them to encourage the usage of more Atom liquidity on Osmosis would be another one.
Awesome, yeah. And then there's a couple of questions. Maybe I can categorize them. But in essence, it's whether you believe the Cosmos Hub in the short term is obsolete, and what do you think does Cosmos Hub in the short term has as a value proposition? We talked a lot about long term. I think we don't need to go into this again. Interchain security, base money, and bridging. But what do you think in the short term?
Well, I guess part of the problem is that these things are seen as long term, and they really shouldn't be, right? Like, why aren't these things seen as short term? Like, why are we not just like ship and iterate, right? Like, when we say short term, long term, like I would hope interchain security is we were told it will be ready by Q1 2022, right? And so I think that's sort of what I mean, I would treat that as semi short term. But if you're talking about like shorter term than that, at the moment, I think like feature wise, it's definitely harder to, get things shipped faster than that. But I think a lot of the BD stuff and like getting like atoms being used more places, that's all stuff that can be done in the short term. And yeah, and at the moment, I think that the Cosmos Hub doesn't. Other than that, it doesn't have too much at the moment until some of these like new features are shipped.
What do you think? This is now a personal question. What do you think, like all these new projects that come up? We have Umi lined up, Axelar, and a lot of these things, they also create additional use cases for Atom. How do you think that these new chains that are being spun up, how will this affect? And could this also be a chance for Atom to like early on be the predominant, currency of that new product?
So, I mean, how does stuff like Axelar bring utility to atoms?
No, I'm just saying, like in general, new chains. I don't know. Maybe there's some use cases for I don't know, on IBC trafficking or whatever, those kind of things to like implement Atom. Do you think that any of these chains could add a lot of value to Atom? Or
I think something like Umi could for sure, because similar to like the Maker, like the stable coin from Agoric, Umi is like a lending protocol, and if it could use, Atom still is very high market cap, and it can be used as collateral to like, if people can create this like Atom backed, using Atom as collateral to like borrow other assets, right? I think that is definitely something people would like to do. And so like, imagine like, this is one thing I've been trying to urge the Umi team to like, I don't know. I think their architecture is a little bit overcomplicated, where it's like, they try to build like half their logic on Cosmos, half their logic is on the Ethereum side. When really, I think the simpler thing to do is just like, build it all in Cosmos. Ethereum is nice, but it's like, there's a huge product just to allow people to like borrow UST against atoms, right? That is a product right there. And you probably get quite a bit of TVL from doing that. And so, I think like things like this, like, making it so people can use atoms in DeFi. I think that all that stuff will just help grow the value prop of atoms, or grow the moneyness of atoms.
All right. Next question. Is Osmosis stealing liquidity away from Emirates DEX? Would it be possible for both DEXs to tap on the same liquidity pools?
I mean, there's not that much liquidity to steal from Gravity DEX. I mean, from my understanding, most of the liquidity on Gravity DEX is mostly put there by Tendermint, as well as like a couple of other, foundations and stuff that Tendermint partnered with. But I mean, yeah, this idea of like shared liquidity pools, I mean, I just don't think that's realistic. I think liquidity is like the competitive moat of DEXs or any exchange. And I just don't see why any DEX would want to share its liquidity. Like Osmosis currently has the most liquidity within the Cosmos ecosystem. And it doesn't make sense for us to want to share that, that is the competitive advantage for Osmosis.
Yeah. Are you trying to make Osmo as the main hub port city instead of Atom? What is the main Atom value accrual in his view that will not be in conflict with Osmo?
I mean, for the second part, I think we covered that quite a bit.
Yeah.
I mean, are we trying to make Osmo the main hub? I mean, no. Like, what does it mean to be a hub? If a hub just means a popular chain, then yeah, of course, we're trying to make Osmosis like a popular chain. I'd love for Osmosis to become the most popular and most used chain. But when we're talking about like, oh, are we trying to route IBC packets through it? Like, no, that's not what we're trying to do with Osmosis. Are we trying to make it the shared security hub? No, that's not what we're trying to do, right? Like, obviously, we're going to try to make Osmosis the most popular chain, but that doesn't. I think that's not necessarily what a hub means.
All right. How do you view the developers squabbles? I don't even know that word, but I guess it means like the back and forth on social media. Is that a good thing or a bad thing for discussions to be public?
I mean, I think it has some positives and negatives. I mean, I never intended this to become so public. I think it became very public after like the whole Gravity Bridge stuff happened, and then Punk like tweeted about like us bribing them, which is not what happened. But instead, he's since apologized about that, and like I think I will say part of the thing is, all this stuff is happening across like disparate companies, right? Like you have like multiple companies that are doing this, and it's like, we don't have like an internal Slack that we use to communicate with each other, right? Like there's like a Discord chat with like a bunch of like the core development teams, but it's like, I don't know. I feel like Twitter is often like a place. I don't know. Sometimes it's the easiest place to do it, and a lot of this is about like swaying community sentiment, right? Like I don't think the point of this like public governance is to like have a bunch of like people sitting in a room and like making decisions, right? Like I a lot of this stuff, like whether to deploy Gravity DEX, what Prop 52, all this stuff came down to like what does the community think, right? And so I think it's like I don't want to come up with decisions in a closed room. I want the community to like be part of the decision-making process and like visualizing. Like for example, okay, like I said, Wickex, he is the or she, I don't know who it is, but they're the ones who like are working on the Prop 52 version 2, right? And it's like, yes, this is what we want. We want community members to be actively engaged in this process, and that wouldn't happen if these discussions weren't happening publicly.
Yeah, I agree. And I think it's also a little bit ironic sometimes in the crypto world where everyone's like, oh yeah, decentralization and like open governance and Web3. But then when it actually comes down to like, developers talking to each other, like, oh, I'm out. I don't want to like hear that. I don't want to get involved in that. But it's part of it, obviously. I mean, and I think like like we said in the very beginning, there are heated discussions, different opinions. It's all part of the game. And we all have a stake. Every Atom holder, every Osmo holder, we all have a stake, right?
Yeah.
The Cosmoverse conference just became a reality because we set up proposals. We talked to the teams. We really became active, right? You have to and nobody knew us before, but we just did it, right? And had a huge impact. So I think everyone, instead of like just complaining about what others are doing, can become active and do it themselves. So I think that's also a philosophy that I carry here. Yeah, Liam also had a question. Liam from Confident in Crypto. I think you should get on his channel as well, man. He's a really cool guy. I think we covered it a lot. So he asked about what you believe the biggest contributing factors in the long term for the success or failure of the Cosmos Hub are. Maybe we haven't talked about failures. What do you think in the long term how the Cosmos Hub potentially could fail?
I think it comes a lot down to like execution risk, right? Like I think the Cosmos Hub has a lot of ideas, but they need to execute on them. And I think that's the same with Osmosis. I think Osmosis currently we have a lot of ideas and we need to execute on them, right? Like what we have right now is very, very simplistic. And we have all these cool things we want to build, but we got to go build them. And I think the same is true for the Cosmos Hub right now, where like, yes, this interchain security thing is amazing, but we has to, we have to see it shipped and executed. One thing I would say, okay, here's one maybe hot take I will say though about the Cosmos Hub. I do think, when it comes about the centrality of the Cosmos Hub in Cosmos, I don't think that should be taken as a given, right? Like, I think that the Cosmos Hub is like, I think it is a chain built in the Cosmos. And you can ask anyone, even before I started, while I was still at Tendermint, I was trying very actively to rename the Cosmos Hub because I didn't like that the Cosmos ecosystem had the same name as this like one specific chain within it. And I think that like if the Cosmos Hub wants to be central to the Cosmos ecosystem, it needs to provide something that gets it there rather than just like, by default, it is there. And when it comes to this execution risk, one of the things I'm trying to do, I mean, I'll be upfront on this. When I was working on Tendermint, at Tendermint, when I joined, I was working on it for 4.5 years. My heart belonged to Cosmos, right? The Cosmos Hub was this thing that we were building to help take this like technology to market. But what excited me was the Cosmos vision, this idea of like many interconnected blockchains. And if I will say, okay, so here's the hot take. I think Cosmos can survive without the Cosmos Hub. I think, and right now, my goal, what I've been focused on for the last like 3 months, has just been growing the Cosmos ecosystem, right? Like I'm going out there right now, talking to Ethereum projects, getting them to build on Cosmos, talking to Terra projects, getting them to like launch as their own separate chains, getting new projects building in Cosmos. And it's like, I think there's so much cool stuff happening in the Cosmos ecosystem right now. But, like I mentioned earlier on, there's so much like skepticism about Cosmos from the external outside because of like the misexecution of the Cosmos Hub. And I don't want that misexecution. I really hope they'll turn things around from here. But like, I don't want that right now, when people think of Cosmos, the spotlight is on that chain and it ignores all the amazing work that's going on outside, right? Like, obviously there's like the big stuff like, Terra and crypto.com, but like there's so many projects that are like killing it right now, right? You have like Stargaze, you have Region, you have Akash, you have like all these people who are building really cool products in Cosmos, and like they just don't get the same spotlight that they deserve just because people are overly focused on the Cosmos Hub. So it's like, I feel that you need to light, part of what I wanted to do a little bit is light a fire under the asses of the Cosmos Hub development teams. Be like, hey, don't get complacent, right? Like, you want Cosmos Hub to become big. I want Cosmos Hub to become big, but it's like, you have to work to get it there. You can't just assume Cosmos will move on without the Cosmos Hub if needed, right? And it's like the onus is on the Cosmos Hub to keep its centrality.
Yeah, and I think also that's eventually not a bug, but actually a feature of the whole architecture of Cosmos, right? That there is no central point of failure. Like right now on Polkadot or Kusama, right, you have those relay chains that everything depends on, right? If they go down, everything else goes down that's pegged to it. So that's kind of like what we're in for at Cosmos, but there's also kind of like this side effect, like, hey, wait, if that's the case, then do we actually need the Cosmos Hub, right? And then if so, what's the role of it? I think that's the whole point of this debate or this conversation here. But I think we worked on a lot of ideas and got a lot of like thoughts from your side and, all these teams that are working on it, what's coming. So I think still this paired with the fact that, the Cosmos Hub still has a very high market cap in terms of, rankings of cryptocurrencies, has the highest brand recognition, is listed on all these giant exchanges, right? Has the best liquidity on all these like big exchanges. I think this still puts them in a very good spot to something newer, I would say, like Terra, even though Terra is also like even bigger in market cap than Atom itself. But I think still is a very good slot here and very good position. Before we switch over to Osmosis questions and then we can wrap it up, is there anything else that you would like to share on this topic, or should we move on?
No, I think we covered it pretty well.
Yeah, let me just see if there's comments here in the stream. How Atom token is... yeah, I think we covered most of that already. Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's one question, like, I don't understand why Atom is not profiting from the success of other smart chains built on Cosmos. I think we've talked a lot about this, especially in the last 5 or 10 minutes, so maybe rewatch this later. But yeah, let's move on. Almost 140 people watching. First question regarding Osmosis from Alessio, who was also in Lisbon. He's asking, what do you think is going to happen when the APRs on Osmosis are going down, basically?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's sort of inevitable where as there's more assets and more pools being built on Osmosis, like that stream of rewards will become more diluted or across more pools. And so, what will happen is that APRs will go down, but one, they might get supplemented by external liquidity incentives, right? Where we see now it's almost basically the default for any new project launching on Osmosis. They are adding their own external incentives, so those can help keep APRs higher. But for the Osmosis specifically as a product, the current high APRs was really meant as our IDO, it's our additional decentralized offering, right? Where it's like, instead of buying Osmo tokens with dollars or something, all the users currently participating in Osmosis are buying the initial distribution with their liquidity, right? This is, the whole point of this was to do an initial, to build the initial community and token holder set of the dedicated cosmonauts who wanted to get in, step in early and be involved. And I think it's fair to reward the early adopters more than the people who come later. And as Osmosis product, it's like the APRs are not the product. They might be right now, but the real product is the things that we are building right now, right? We're building these obviously there's things like Superfluid staking, which help boost APRs again, but there's also things like the privacy and the front running resistance and new DeFi products that we're building. And so these are sort of the long-term, the APRs are short-term moat. The long-term moat is building the platform that we're building.
Yeah, I think also the airdrop and also the APRs are what really dragged in a lot of eyeballs and users, and then from there it's really to prove itself. And I think great transition to one of the biggest things that also personally I'm really excited to see is when Superfluid staking.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so Superfluid staking, you can follow it on GitHub right now. You can see that it's being actively worked on. But not just like talking about it and not building it. But as anything goes, building often takes a little bit longer than expected. So, I think the original plan was to have it ready by December of this year, but it looks like it'll probably slip into next year. But like we're definitely, I have my fingers crossed for like January, like late January, early February. You know, don't hold me accountable for this. Well, hold me accountable, but don't like get mad if we don't hit it. But that's just what we're aiming for. Just especially just with the holidays coming up and stuff, and like
We will
testing.
tweet. We will tweet. Remind you. So don't
Okay,
worry.
perfect.
So when is the convert dust feature coming, if it's coming at all?
The convert dust feature, it'll be there eventually. It's definitely not the highest priority on our stack right now. One thing that's actually useful is, one thing that we actually did, so we hired this I don't know if people have seen him online, but, Daniel Farina. He's like, our new DevRels that joined us pretty recently, and he's been doing, an amazing job just like organizing us. So if you go to the github.com/osmosis-labs, like the GitHub org, and you can click the project board, you can see like a list of everything we're working on, and everything is like has a priority attached to it. And so you can see like, okay, this feature, how high is it? Is it a low priority, medium priority, or high priority? So with the dust stuff, the other thing is, we're working on hiring more front end developers right now. And so that way we have more capacity to take on a lot of these like, a lot of these like front end features, like converting dust and like asymmetric liquidity adding. So, currently you have to add liquidity at exactly 50-50, but like, you can have it so you can add liquidity at other formats. And the stuff like this, it actually all exists on chain already. It's mostly a front end, integrating this stuff into the Osmosis front end. And so that's sort of what we're working on right now, or we'll be working on as we hire more people.
I love to see whenever I come back to Osmosis, I feel there's something small, something new there, whether it's the design or whether it's this little feature that you implemented where you can just choose half of your trade that you want to make, half of the amount of coins that you have. Little things there. I think that's really cool. It's a very active and alive platform. Another guy asked also whether there's going to be an auto farming strategy that's coming where you don't have to like claim your rewards every day. And is that also something that's coming, or?
This is something that we started building and then we stopped because of two reasons. One, I mean, we did the cost benefit of it. It just didn't seem worth it at the time. Primarily because, I was like, oh yes, let's do this. But then it occurred to me that, hey, I think the thing that, everyone I talk to, they're like, yeah, I have it on, it's part of my daily schedule at 5 p.m. UTC. I go on Osmosis and like click the withdraw button. And I actually kind of like this, I feel like, when you have a product that your users use every day, I think that's like kind of what you want. And we kind of want people to like, yes, Osmosis should be part of your daily life, and that's how this is how it's. I don't want to have a product where people, stake their money and then they check in on it 6 months later, right? No, it's like, no, every day is Osmosis day.
Do you also have your own time zone now, the Osmosis time zone, whenever it hits 0?
I remember Jacob was trying to make a Osmosis time zone because back when the epoch time kept drifting every day, and he was going to invent a new time zone for that. But since then we actually fixed it, so like the epoch doesn't drift every day. So, yeah, I don't know. Maybe we should make a time zone eventually.
What can you tell about the threes? You've been tweeting about these weird things, right? Now, what is that?
I don't know. I just really like the number 3, and I don't know. I've been learning a lot more about like Olympus DAO recently, and I say I wasn't a biggest fan of Olympus DAO, but when I saw Clima DAO, I was like, whoa, this is so cool. So I just been thinking about things around that.
So what do you really tell us?
I've been really into osmium cubes recently. So if it's gonna sound silly, but like if like those tungsten tubes that everyone was like hyped about. Well, it turns out tungsten is not even the most densest element. Osmium is. So you can buy these like centimeter cubes of osmium on the internet. And yeah, I don't know. I bought a few, and I don't know. It'd be really cool if we could like tokenize them or something.
All right, interesting. Um, let's see, what else do we have? General question, maybe. I think that's also helpful for anybody who is a token holder of any Cosmos ecosystem project. How should one approach any governance proposal before voting yes, no, or abstain? Maybe you can share some best practices here.
Yeah, that's actually a great question. So I think governance has this like process right now where typically people post proposals on Commonwealth first, and that gives people time to sort of do a review for comment and stuff like that and give feedback and things. So I think people should basically be checking Commonwealth more often, right? Like being able to know which proposals are in the pipeline, and if you have ideas around them, actually like be able to like provide feedback. And I think when a proposals come online, maybe one cool idea that maybe we should do is have a buffer period before people can start voting, right?
Mm,
Because right now a proposal gets a voting period and it goes, or maybe like, because we have this deposit period, maybe we have a time like it has to be in deposit period for a minimum of 24 hours or something. Just because I think when proposals go live, people start voting immediately. It's like usually, it's good to let things sit and digest for a little bit before you like vote. And so I think, I've noticed that on some of and part of the problem is on Osmosis, the voting period is really short right now. It's only 3 days, right? Which is like pretty abnormal relative to like, Cosmos Hub is like 14 days. Part of it is so we can have faster iteration speed on a lot of things. But, I think what we need is maybe some sort of variable voting period. So like things that need to be 3 days can be 3 days, but things that are like maybe larger strategic decisions that need to have a lot more thought, they should be 7 days or 14-day voting period. And like with them buffer in front where people can't vote. So that gives time for like, because I've noticed that, however much I tell people to check Commonwealth, people really only start discussing something once it's on chain, right?
mm.
And so we need to make those voting periods longer so that once it's on chain, there's time for the discussions to happen and people can like, come up with more rational governance voting processes, voting decisions.
Mm. Yeah, and I think what's the URL for it? Is it gov.osmosis.zone, right? Where people can
Yep.
watch through these
Yep.
proposals and leave
Yep.
comments, and also how we did it with the Cosmoverse proposal. We first published it there, and then there were a lot of comments, a lot of feedback, a lot of like rephrasing with it after that, and then we
Yeah.
published it on the on chain, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's very helpful. Also, if you're
That being
planning,
said, I would like to also just say that, the Osmosis community has been like, just insane when it comes to the like number of proposals that it's been having, right? Because it's like, I think Osmosis has been live for what, 5 months now, and we're on proposal number 78, which means we have like an average of 3 to 4 proposals a week. And I don't know any other Cosmos chain or any other like DAO on any like community. I don't know any off the top of my head. There probably are some, but like that are that active in governance and have that many proposals going through. Obviously, a lot of them are like just incentive adjustments, but even if you remove the incentive adjustment, I think we're still having like 1 or 2 legitimate proposals a week, which is kind of amazing.
it is, yeah, and it's a lot of things that are being determined, not just the pool incentivization, but also we funded a conference with it, many other things. So yeah, really one of the most active governance mechanisms out there. What is brewing with the Strange Clan? Give us some hints. Yup.
Yeah, so our head of growth, John Patton, I know he's been working on some ideas with the Strangeland folks, and like, I think John is a huge NFT fan, and so I think he just has some ideas that they're working on. So I'll let them, John and the Strangeland folks, share it when they're ready.
What would you say to creative who is 24 and wants to build? How do you start?
Yeah. So I would say, probably okay. So it depends on where you are in the cycle. I think the first thing, if you're like brand new, is just spend time learning a bunch of stuff. So go read the all like the base like DeFi stuff. Or first, okay. First of all, what we're talking about, if you're in like crypto, you're brand new to crypto, you kind of want to pick where you want to focus, right? You can do stuff on DeFi, you could do stuff on layer one, you could do stuff on cryptography. So, when I started, I was really focused in on like proof of stake and like consensus protocols. That's why I joined Tendermint. But nowadays I've been more on DeFi, and I still feel very brand new to DeFi in a lot of ways because like I spent years sort of studying. I had no finance background or anything like that before, so I think what really helped was like, I understood, I knew Uniswap at the high level and stuff, but I think going in and just like reading the white paper of like all these base primitives, go read Uniswap, go read Compound, go read Maker, go read SNX, all these like protocols. And then once you understand them, then the next step is to like sort of think of how you can like modify them, take ideas from different protocols and like combine them. Like Compound was invented basically by like taking ideas from like bonding curves and combining them with Maker to create this like cool mechanism. And so I think there's a lot of room to go there. And then when you're ready to start building, I think learn Cosmosm. I think Cosmosm is just like growing like crazy. I think it's probably the second most popular smart contracting language right now, after the EVM. Probably more popular than Solana even. After obviously a lot of it thanks to like the work that the Terra ecosystem has been doing. But I think Cosmosm is going to become way more prevalent throughout the entire Cosmos ecosystem. I know one thing I've been personally working on a lot since coming back from Lisbon is like working on Cosmosm for Osmosis, because there's a lot of people who want to start building peripheral products to Osmosis, and so we're probably going to have like some sort of permissioned Cosmosm system for Osmosis, where like people want to go deploy an ETF system or a leverage system or something like that for Osmosis. They can do that easily on the Osmosis chain.
Which basically answers Tintin's question. I think there was also somebody on Twitter who asked if borrowing and lending is coming to Osmosis, and something else. What was it? NFT marketplace. If that's coming to Osmosis.
Yeah, so borrowing and lending, I mean, we definitely have some ideas around borrowing and lending. But at the same time, I know there's a lot of other people in the ecosystem working on it. So obviously there's Umi, but there's also like Mars protocol. So I don't know if you saw that, like, I've been slowly trying to get them. They're like a lending protocol on Terra right now. But I think they've expressed some interest in kind of maybe building their own Cosmos chain. And so, in talking with them quite a bit, but also just like we have some ideas that we have lending as well. For NFTs, I don't think we're going to build an NFT market, because I think that's not really our specialty, and that's not really what Osmosis is supposed to be. More of a DeFi chain. We're very close with the Stargaze team, obviously, and so I think there's a lot of NFT stuff, people building like Osmosis related NFTs, and I think Stargaze will probably be the best place to put those. But when it comes to NFTs, what we are interested in is like how NFTs become more useful for DeFi, right? Like as DeFi grows, more and more financial assets will be represented as NFTs, because most of DeFi today is based around like tokens, right? But once we get our houses on a blockchain, right? Like home deeds are going to be NFTs, but how do you get a mortgage on your house that's on the blockchain? So we need to build these like DeFi primitives that are like interact with NFTs, and that's really what we're thinking about. How do we make NFTs that are built on these other marketplaces more useful in DeFi?
Yeah, I think that's an inevitable route. I think also the Uni version 3 LPs are also NFTs, right? So yeah, it's definitely way more than just expensive JPEGs. Devcorn is suggesting that you shave your head if you miss the deadline for Superfluid staking. What do you say about
All right, let's.
this?
All right.
We can
But
determine a deadline right here, right now.
I'd be down, except I already shaved my head last year during COVID, just for fun, just to see what it looks like, and it did not look good. So maybe
Well,
that's good
that's
reason.
even better. If it looked good, it wouldn't even be bad for you. But
Okay.
what do you say?
All right. How about let's say end of February, I will shave my head.
End of February. Okay. All right. I'll take that.
Go.
That's a good one. Yeah, we'll make sure we hold you accountable on that on Twitter.
Okay.
You sure February?
Oh,
You know, want to make it more spicy and say 31st of January?
I gotta go check with my engineering team. I don't even know what. I'm gonna say end of February for now. It just
okay. All right.
I think that's a good. I'm confident we can meet that.
All right. So that's the what is it?
3 months.
Here it is. Yeah, 3 months. Yeah. 27th, 28th of February. 28th of February. Okay. Awesome. Okay, so if you miss it,
February is 3 days shorter. All right, gotta accelerate those 3 days as well.
Awesome. What else do we have? Osmo Daily Quest. Yes. Connie is asking. Connie's here. We will be seeing more Wasmongton art variations to coincide with holidays and other calendar events like Halloween Wasmongton.
Yes, we will for sure. Kevin, who's our designer, is working on these. But I've also been told that there's going to be more characters coming as well. So keep an eye out for that.
The Sif Chain mascot, Sif, is she coming? Or
Alice? Maybe. There's a new female character in the works. So.
Oh wow! Yeah. Oh, that's breaking news, man. That's the highlight of the entire stream now. You're dropping the bomb now. This is Jesus.
Alpha leak.
Absolutely. Another alpha leak, maybe. GJ is asking any more Osmo airdrops for late Cosmo notes.
You mean like airdrops of Osmo?
I think so. Yeah.
Okay. I mean, I don't know. There's money in the community pool. If that would really be up to the Osmosis governance to decide whether they want to do that. But I think that there's just other like there's a lot more airdrops coming in. As you mentioned earlier, there's been a lot of more airdrops to Osmo LPs and token holders and stuff. So I think I
think Stargaze is coming up still. They already have done it for then Desmos. What do you think about this whole Desmos situation, by the way? There was a little bit of confusion there as well, right? How to claim your airdrop and
I didn't follow it too closely. All I saw was that there's something where you have to put your seed phrase into the website, which yes, that's bad, but I'm not gonna. It's funny because we actually did the same thing where one of the projects Dave and I worked on before Osmosis, we worked on something called Straight Edge. And for that, to claim your tokens, we actually also made people put their seed phrase in a website. But there we had a reason where like it's all this tooling around stuff around like we were using Polkadot keys to claim Cosmos tokens, and like Kepler doesn't support the Polkadot key, so the only way for us to do it was to have people import their seed phrase.
My dad would be furious to hear this. Absolutely furious.
So this, so I mean, to be honest, I feel sympathy for the. My point is, I get where the Desmos team is coming from, where it's like, this stuff is hard and like getting this stuff shipped by deadlines. But at the same time, I think users were, right. Not to be mad at the Desmos team. I don't know if that's the right thing to do, but like, but I think they were good to be vigilant. Like they should be skeptical of like any website that asks them to put in a seed phrase. And I think the Desmos team will like, ship a proper. This is probably just their like V1. I'm sure they'll have a site which like with a more safer claiming process very soon.
I think this statement also proves that you're not Wasmongton on Twitter, because Wasmongton was very vocal and furious about this. So
yeah.
Man on a Mission is saying he's checking his osmosis twice a day. Eric is saying twice a day is amateur. Get on my level. Here's actually a good. We can wrap it up in 1 or 2 minutes, but there's some good funny things here. Taste for Free is asking, when will zero gas fees be done away with on Osmosis? How sustainable is this?
Yeah, so I think zero gas fees is, until people start abusing it, I think it's okay. In this next upgrade that's coming out, so the reason we started with zero fees was for a UX reason, where validators set their min fee in Osmo, but if there's a min fee that's like non-zero, only allowed to be paid in Osmo, it causes not great UX, right? Like, if people come in with atoms, let's say, and they want to trade atoms to, or even buy Osmo for the first time, right? It's like they can't do that because they don't have any Osmo yet. And so in this next upgrade, there is a feature where whatever the min fee is, let's say it's like 0.1 Osmo or something, you can pay it in any token, and it gets converted to Osmo price based off of what the price in the pools is. And so this allows you to, even if you have atoms or anything, you can pay your transaction fee in any of the tokens you want, which is really cool. But at the same time, even once we have this feature, I think we still want to keep it at zero fees for a while. And only if we start to get spammed or something, then all the validators can increase the fee at that time. I do think I would like to see if there's I haven't cracked this nut yet, but maybe there's a world in which you can keep like zero fees for like long term, for like off of certain criteria. Like maybe if you have a certain amount of Osmo staked, you get this many free transactions a month or something like that. I think there's like cool things that can be done like that, which can still make the UX seamless for people.
Yeah, or just implement the Atom Osmo pool from the Gravity DEX, and then people can get it there.
Yeah.
But no.
No, but it's more like a psychological thing, I feel like, yes, I think fees on Osmosis can be very low, and you can pay them in anything you want, but there's still a difference between 1 cent and free. Free has a certain psychological, effect to it.
3 is a special number, yes. Oh, and there's one question. I think I read this somewhere, just come to my mind, about getting Osmo potentially on centralized exchanges. So what is your stance on that? The Binance's, I think it goes well in that context.
Yeah, I think that we have not been super, we've been pretty vocal that we're not like super focused on getting Osmo on centralized exchanges, mostly because Osmosis is a DEX, and Osmo is the governance token of the DEX. And so it's like, if you want Osmo, if you want this governance token, you should come use the DEX to get it, right? I feel that's a reasonable minimum barrier to entry to like someone who wants to be a governor of this DEX protocol. And so that's why we're not really overly focused on getting Osmo on centralized exchanges. How I put it is, we have conviction in our own product, and like, the point of Osmosis is to become a better platform than all the centralized exchanges today. So, we'll get there eventually. We are working with like fiat on ramps and stuff, though. Like how, we're working with a team to basically allows you to buy Osmo using whatever fiat on ramp, but not only Osmo, but it allows you to buy any Cosmos token because it will route through the Osmosis DEX.
Yeah, awesome. I don't know if you can see the questions, if there's anything else that you want to answer. I think otherwise it was a very productive session, almost 1.5 hours. So yeah, I think we can wrap it up.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you so much for putting this together. Yeah. So last minute.
Yeah, man, thanks for coming on. Just need to, because this is my second stream I'm doing here on my channel. I had the first one actually also today with Radar from Key, because we talked about this Juno proposal that they had on. So there was also a little bit of confusion there. But this one is resolved. Now Sunny's views on the Cosmos Hub are resolved. Sunny is a friend, and Sunny loves also the long-term goals that the Cosmos Hub hopefully will achieve in terms of interchain staking, in terms of all these interchain security and all these things. So thanks for coming on. And yeah, there's one last question that somebody asked: are you really managing your own Twitter account?
I am. That is definitely me on my own Twitter account. No one else.
Awesome. Cool, man. We'll keep in touch. Keep it up, and
Awesome.
see you soon.
Thank you so much.
Take it.